The views expressed on Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football are not those of End of the Internet LLC, copyright 2012, its affiliates, or any of its partners. If you are offended by the subject of bones, dads, sneaking downstairs, non-sexual hugs, DeviantArt, lanyards, tattooed women, Reggie White, police officers, and individuals who resemble Wes Welker, you may not want to listen to Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football. In other words, content may not be suitable for all audiences. Listener discretion is advised. This is Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football.
Imparting her moist lips.
Wait a minute.
Yeah, hang on, crazy pants.
Let her talk, woman.
Featuring Cam.
Sorry. I was laughing at your clothes.
Chris.
His mind brain is permanently rejecting his real identity.
Mind brain?
That's a thing. Shut up.
And Alex.
But someday I'm gonna write a book about this place. A real smackaroony.
Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football.
I am drunk, or I wouldn't be talking to you.
Yeah, no, I am shit-faced.
Careful, cause in about 3 drinks you're gonna get all boo-hooey and ask me to pump a baby in you.
What's up, guys? This is Cam, Chris, and Alex Talking Football. This is a continuation of our previous podcast with the free agency frenzy. The last time we just kind of covered the things that we really, struck us the most, the stuff we wanted to talk about immediately. This time we're going to break it down a little more specifically. We're going to go with the AFC in this podcast. Preferably we'll finish all of the AFC by the end of it and our opinions on most things, but if it gets protracted, we might stick with what we got and then continue it later. The first division we're going to start with, I think, is the AFC North. And because I think there's a pretty big contrast when you look at the approaches of the AFC North teams, because you've got 2 teams in the North right now who are almost $30 million under the cap, and there is a cap floor this year. You have to be at 90% of the cap ceiling, or you get a significant financial penalty. And the other 2 teams, one of them's in cap hell, and the Ravens have had a fantastic free agency and all season in general.
And really, the room that the Ravens have made for themselves is something that, a lot of people, especially around here, the uninformed people, because I'm clearly not talking to anybody that has a brain right now when I say
Sure.
this, but there are a lot of people that, have really questioned the ways that the Ravens have created cap room. I mean, they traded probably their best weapon throughout the playoffs in Anquan Boldin for a 6th-round pick, who was scheduled to make $6.5 million this year and next year. They moved on from Bernard Pollard, who was a guy that really stepped up his play since coming to Baltimore, and that was only for a savings of about $2.5 million. They've been able to retain effectively none of their big ticket free agents. I mean, with the exception of Bryant McKinney, who's still out there, pretty much every guy that hit the market has signed with somebody else. I mean, Reed, Ellerby, Kruger, Kerry Williams, they've all
For
gone
much bigger
elsewhere.
money, yeah.
For much bigger money, and that's right. And there was a lot of issues that came about that people were saying around here. Again, not the informed people, but people nonetheless, that this was all Joe Flacco's fault, that he asked for too much money, and that they couldn't keep the team together because they were paying Joe Flacco all this money.
Right. The Ravens' Facebook is filled with functionally retarded morons. Right.
I'm convinced that my team doesn't even deserve to win a Super Bowl because these are the people that are going to be happy when it happens. Like, it's that bad. They are like, I don't even know.
Yeah,
I don't know
no
how after watching the way this team builds itself, this is not a team that goes out typically and spends a lot in free agency. I mean, honestly, the Doomerville signing is the biggest Ravens free agent acquisition I can remember since Elvis Gerbach. Like, the Ravens do not sign free agents, period. It doesn't happen.
Because
The guy-
Ozzy's smart, yeah.
He's intelligent, but he's also intelligent enough, unlike what I've seen going on in Pittsburgh, where, they cleared house and are sitting on their hands now. He's smart enough to realize a market inefficiency when he sees it. And the market right now is flooded with cheap veteran players. And so you see a team that typically doesn't go out and sign free agents at all. I mean, when you look at guys that they signed outside of undrafted free agents, if you look at that defense from last year, Pollard was a free agent making peanuts, and Corey Graham was a free agent making peanuts. And other than that, those were all homegrown guys. Like, every last one of them. I mean, Kimoyatu was here and then gone and then here, but he was a Ravens undrafted free agent. They were all guys that came up in the Ravens system, and now you see this offseason they've gone out. They've got Chris Canty and Marcus Spears and Elvis Doomerville, and signed Michael Huff today for 40% over
Literally
3 years.
2/5 of what Ed
Very,
Gates
very
getting.
good deal, and just what they needed.
I mean, they absolutely needed a safety. We said this when we podcasted just last night. We're like, the Ravens need to add a safety from somewhere, if not two. And they went out and they got an above average safety at a below market rate. I mean, even, if you don't want to compare it to the Reed deal, even if you compare it to the 4 years, $24 million that LaRon Landry got from the Colts, it's an absolute steal.
It's still funny though. He's literally better than Deshaun Goldson, who got $42 million. And
I agree.
He got $6 million. It's Ozzie. Look, I mean, you can't, as a fan of, just in general, of good general managership, whether it's the Eagles and not necessarily their player choice, but their incredible ability to manipulate cap, or just with the Ravens with player choice specifically, even when they overpay, which they rarely do, but even when they overpay, their player choice is uncanny. And that's what you're seeing in this offseason, is that the rich always get richer, because you got teams who are you're bringing in Michael Huff, who is legitimately an above average safety, one of the best in the free agency class, and he's being brought in for less than the 34-year-old declining can't tackle free safety you just cut, or you just let walk in free agency. And the fact that every other team in the NFL is letting them do this, and the Texans are signing Reed for that much money every year, is it's almost unfair that the Ravens can do this every year, and teams are too stupid to emulate them.
And I mean, it's like you said, it's crazy that teams can't figure it out. You hear, you've got, the Daniel Snyders of the world that are going out and just spending dickloads of money in free agency. And then you've got the teams that are committed to building from within, sort of what the Bengals have been doing, where the Bengals have brought in, a couple bargain basement guys like Terrence Newman and Pac-Man Jones last year. But it's mostly guys that the Bengals have drafted and developed over, a relatively long period.
Yeah, we can see
we'd
like
like to
on their
think
offensive
that.
line, for example.
Yeah.
But the difference between, it's like there's two schools of thought, and Ozzie Newsome's one of the few GMs in football that managed to blend them properly. How many GMs would have been willing to give 2 years, $8 million to Bryant McKinney 2 years ago?
So smart.
It's a tactically targeted move. It's relatively low risk
Low
and
risk, high
incredibly
reward,
high
yeah.
reward. And that's, I mean, even the one signing the Ravens have made this offseason that I'm not crazy about is Marcus Spears, but he's making next to nothing.
Yeah.
If he's awful, you can cut him. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
That's the kind of moves that they've made. I mean, again, to look at the Steelers are another team that doesn't get involved heavily in free agency because they typically develop, very, very good players.
Right.
And
it's easy to shit on them because they're in cap hell right now, but when you consider that with a lesser front office, they could have been in cap hell, 4 years ago. And they got a Super Bowl out of it. That's what you're supposed to do. And
yeah, they got two.
I'm talking about the most recent round of contracts. They got a Super Bowl out of this most recent round of contracts, where they put everything off till later, and it kind of, they're just screwed now. They had to get rid of, they're not going to be able to match the Patriots on Emmanuel Sanders. They had to cut Harrison. They're having to lose a lot of talent. Keenan Lewis, Mike Wallace, all these guys. But they got a Super Bowl out of it, even though, now they're in cap hell. But they were able to survive it at the time, and they were able to put enough cheap talent together that they won a Super Bowl. And the thing that really gets me about the Ravens and Ozzie Newsome and his regime in particular is they don't have to postpone a cap hell until later to put together Super Bowl level talent. He does it every year.
And they've structured their deals incredibly well in that regard. Like Haloti Ngata, when he signed his extension, there were 2 years in that deal when he got $22 million apiece. They structured it in a way where, they're taking 1 or 2 huge cap hits every year. It's the same thing with the Joe Flacco contract. It's the same thing they did with Suggs. It's the same thing on the Ray Rice deal, even. That there are 2 to 3 years tops where they're making, top dollar, and the rest of the years they have low base salaries. And I actually wanted to go back to the Steelers for a second, because there's a lot of people that have questioned the Steelers' decision this offseason to restructure a lot of guys, because they pushed some of Ike Taylor's money back, they pushed some of Lamar Woodley's money back. They didn't actually. You could have just said, if you're the Steelers, we're gonna eat a bunch of money this year and then just start getting better next year, or whatever you want to call it. You could take, an approach sort of like what the Panthers are doing, where they're just opting to cut guys, or like the Raiders are doing.
No,
where
I
they're
mean, the
just cutting
Steelers were
guys.
over the cap, though.
They were over the
well
they,
over.
Yeah.
They had to clear room. No, you're absolutely right. They had to clear room, but the fact that they chose to do it through restructuring rather than releasing is sort of the point that I'm trying to touch on
Right.
here.
Okay.
And the reason that I think that it was the right move to make is because Ben Roethlisberger's 31 going on 32.
Right.
If you're the 2013 Jets in 2 years, that's fine because your franchise quarterback is now out of his prime. You need if you are the Pittsburgh Steelers, you see the clock is ticking on Ben Roethlisberger. That you've got 2, maybe 3 years where he's still playing at a top level,
Especially
And-
considering his style of play.
Exactly, and that's you have to maximize the franchise quarterback window when you got it. If you're the Cowboys, you have to maximize the Tony Romo window when you've got it. Even if you've got a guy like Phillip Rivers, obviously the Chargers aren't going anywhere this year. But if you've got a chance to build around that guy and make a 1 to 2 year run and then fuck yourself, you do it because you don't know when that franchise quarterback is going to be walking through the door again.
Right.
Like
And you could get that one guy in the draft who, for whatever reason, puts your team over the top. And it can always happen. I mean, with the Ravens just happened to hit on several guys who put them over the top this year. But with some teams, with the Steelers this year, I mean, really, when you look at, I mean, they lost a lot of talent. I could still see this team being a Super Bowl contender if they get one surprise elite player and after day one, for example.
If they stay healthy, I think that's actually, a very real possibility. I mean, if you get a full year out of Palomalu, who's still playing at a high level, even though I think he's overrated,
Sure.
if you get a healthy year out of Lamar Woodley, if you get anything across from him in the pass rush, because James Harrison the first half of this year did nothing when he was still recovering from the injuries.
And if the duct tape on the offensive line somehow holds together, yeah, they can, and they get the one elite skill player contributor, either on offense or defense. Yeah, they can make a run, absolutely.
Exactly. I mean, you're telling me, if Jarvis Jones is there at 17 and they manage to add him, that this is not maybe the scariest defense in the league.
Right, and his stenosis doesn't act up, yeah.
Exactly. And I mean, even when you look at what happened to him last year, I remember this time last year, we were raving about the Steelers draft
Yeah.
class. It looked like they got 5
Yeah,
starters
it
in their
really
draft.
did at the time. In
And
defense
then-
of what we were
and
saying,
then-
yeah.
DeCastro got hurt, and Sean Spence's career might be over.
It's
and,
over, yeah.
And Alameda
Alameda
Tom,
Taylor.
who decided to crash into 11 cars while drunk.
But in fairness,
So-
DeCastro came back at, week 15, and he looked really good when he was back. When
He
had
looked
limited...
okay. I mean, he looked really good for a rookie coming off a
Right,
series.
ACL,
knee.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
he looked
game and one
incredibly
awful
good.
Game.
I'm saying he looked incredibly good for a rookie
Given
who's
the
coming off an ACL. Yeah,
Okay,
that's what
considering,
I'm
yeah,
talking.
yeah.
That's what I'm not saying he looked like he wasn't the next Jari Evans out there, but I mean he looked really good for a guy who was admittedly was rushed back from
The
an
thing is-
ACL tear that he'd suffered earlier in that year. And
I'm
as a
pretty
rookie.
sure it was actually a dislocated kneecap, but
Was that it?
Same thing. It was
It
something
was
to me.
severe, yeah.
It was
It
severe,
was pretty
yeah.
bad. It's just like the Dallas game. I thought he looked really good, and the Cincinnati game he looked awful, and then
He was on Geno, wasn't he?
probably
I think he was on
that's-
Geno, yeah.
He's
That's
not gonna
really
play
fair.
him
for that.
And he's not getting help from Pouncey. It's not getting help from Kelvin Beachum at right tackle. So,
Oh, don't.
but yeah, that's I mean it. The Steelers. The Steelers are a team that's very similar to the Packers in the sense that they can get by with a Band-Aid line better than most teams because their quarterback is able to create from the pocket.
Right.
I mean,
Same
I,
with the Cowboys. Yeah.
Same with the Cowboys too, right? Exactly. I've criticized Aaron Rodgers for holding the ball too long, but he's also a creator in the backfield. He can move around and he can wait for his guys to get open. I can't tell you how many plays I saw where the Packers would leave nobody in the block, no running back, no tight end, and just have the receivers run around like assholes downfield until somebody got open, and it always worked because there were so many of them.
Yeah.
But the Steelers are the same way. It really
Jericho Cotchery was getting open like a lot.
exactly. Plaxico Burress was. I mean,
he was.
We
I'm
watched.
surprised he lasted that long into the season. Quite frankly, I know
yeah.
he's old and he's not that good anymore, but he's tall and his hands are still good. And when he was on the field, he looked. Even when it wasn't Roethlisberger being a scrambling asshole. He looked decent out there, and they re-signed him this year, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, he even looked decent in the Charlie Batch game, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I mean, he was getting his hands at the very least. He was doing the only thing he can do at this age, which is get his hands up in the air at the highest point and
Can
beating
we-
short corner.
Can we pause for a second and talk about how fucking tiny his head is, though? Because that man has the tiniest head I have ever seen.
I thought that was when I was younger, like when I was, in high school and Madden like 04 or whatever, or 02. I thought that was like an error in the giant head Alex Barron. I thought it was like tiny head Plaxico Burress, but that's his real head.
Like, he
It's
looks like
fucking
Earthworm
tiny.
Jim.
It's not quite Rondo there, but yeah.
He's got tiny ass head, and I'm going to use tiny ass head to transition into how the Browns offseason has been managed because
Good one.
yeah, you got that one. Nice. The Browns and the Bengals collectively are, I believe, if they're not the two most cap room,
Two of the
free
top
teams,
three, if
they're two of the
not
top three. I
Yeah,
believe.
there's something like
They're
that.
29 million for the Bengals and 28 million for the Browns. Despite the fact that the Browns spent 41 million on Paul Kruger, they still have 28 million in cap room. And I'm not an advocate of burning all your money early in free agency, but there were positions of need where the Browns could have added somebody that was added for a lot cheaper than I would have thought their spending limit was. Prime example, Louis Vasquez. I don't see how they couldn't have outbid the Browns or the Broncos on that one, realistically. And they desperately need somebody else at guard because Laval was awful. And they could have used somebody there. They could have easily outbid the 28 million. And maybe you just want to play for a winning team. And some free agents are like that. That's fair. But it seems like they've got, with the players who've gone off the board, and this is different from teams like loafing the Jaguars. It's different from teams like them where there's players who I thought they could have legitimately outbid. Even the bad teams that have had some guys. There seems they legitimately could have outbid. I thought for players that could have helped them in free agency a lot, especially at corner. As a Saints fan, I'm really surprised they didn't poison pill a contract at Keenan Lewis that we couldn't match in the first year. Like that would have been a great fit at a number 2 across from Joe Hayden.
Well, you see, one of the things I was thinking about is, like, you're talking about right guard. You can get by on a team with 4 decent offensive linemen. Looking at the defense, though, looking at cornerback, they brought in Brent Grimes for a visit, and with all that cap room, like, I don't know how much he's asking for. He's not asking for $10 million a year. Like, come on, like, roll the dice on him.
Well, I think it's for Grimes. I'm pretty sure it's actually a medical thing where, whereas the
He's
Achilles
not
is
100% yet, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if he can pass. I know Brentavious
Roll the
Omar.
dice.
And that's, even in that regard, I think because it's such a significant medical issue, I think he's actually looking for, multi-years at this point.
Right.
I can't confirm
That could
obviously.
be it. Yeah.
Because he is on the wrong side of 30.
But I mean, I feel like most teams in the league are going to be like, okay, we'll give you 1 year, $6 million. Like, that's not...
Right.
It's not really the end of the world. But
Hey,
yeah, he's
Cam,
30.
Cam, let's play a guessing game.
I love guessing games. Come on.
How old is Brent Grimes?
I thought he was turning 30 this year.
Yeah, he's 29.
I thought he was turning 31.
But he
yeah.
turns 30 this year.
Yeah, close enough.
That's what I was going for. Yeah, nice try. That's what I was going for.
Thanks,
when I say the
You
wrong
won the
side of
guessing
30,
game, though.
I mean this year. Yeah. But there's players, I mean, not just the ones who are out there, but the ones who have already been signed. I thought the Browns could have, I mean, maybe they put in offers for him, and I guess it's kind of weird to criticize the Browns for not overspending considering they spent an assload on a guy who hasn't even started 16 games in his career. Which I don't get how you spend $41 million, no matter how good they look, on anyone who hasn't started a full season of game. And I just realized how retarded that makes the old CBA sound. Also, by the way, because you were giving that much guaranteed to fucking Sam Bradford and Jamarcus Russell, whatever. But the Browns, with the amount of cap room they have, I don't see there being enough free agents left. That unless they overpay severely for some very poor players, to go. I mean, they're going to be the team that pays Dwight Freeney $7 million a year over 2 years. They're going to give him like $15 million 2-year contract or something like. They're going to be that team because 2013 in the new collective bargaining agreement, this is the first year where you have to meet the cap floor, and it's 90% of the cap ceiling. So I'm not a great mathematician, but that's about $110 a little over $110 million, and they're still about $20 million below that.
They're not that far below
but
it.
they're like 17, 18 million.
They're
below that.
they're within range of it after they sign their draft picks. I mean, they
No,
can get there.
No, they're $28 million on the cap right now. The Browns.
I know they are.
And when you put 20, that they still need about at least 15 million total, including draft picks.
You didn't let me finish. I said they're within range. I mean, they can get there with
Right.
a couple, mid-range free agents. They can get
Right,
there.
right,
Like
right.
they're not, this is not going to be the sky is falling. We have to go hand, $15 million to Alinda Mare.
Or Michael Caine. That's my favorite joke. Oh,
There's our boy.
Dustin Colquitt. There's our boy. It's Dustin Colquitt.
At least Dustin Colquitt's good. I mean,
I wouldn't go
he's
that.
not.
He's
solid. Not
He's
Olindo
solid.
Mare.
He's solid.
He's
He's
not
not
Olindo
Olindo Mare.
Mare. That's my entire point.
He's on the right side of 40. That's true.
But
Because I believe Mare was 41 when he signed that contract, wasn't he?
something stupid. Like
Dear
he was at
I love how analysts love
at the
to call
earliest, like late 30s. Yeah,
He was
I don't
old as
know.
hell. He was on the wrong side of 35. We can agree on that.
Yeah,
But
he was old.
when you look at the other team that's got over, in the 28, 29 million range, the Bengals, they've got players that I'm just going to assume because I would be very surprised at this point if Andre Smith didn't resign with the Bengals. He's still available. I would be very surprised if he was available and didn't sign with the Bengals at this point. I don't know why he's still out there at this point, as a matter of fact. I mean, when you consider who else is going to gun for Andre Smith at this point? I don't see people who have the cap room and have the desire. So assuming he goes to the Bengals, which, I mean, I would be very, very shocked if he didn't. They've still got, a solid $20 million, not including their draft picks, or sorry, including their draft pick money. They still got a solid $20 million this year to spend on free agents. I feel like they're going to probably invest heavily in the future and just re-sign a bunch of their players early. Like, Dunlop and A.J. Green especially.
and Geno Atkins. Atkins and
Yeah,
Dunlap are
yeah.
both up next year.
Yeah.
And that's one of Mike Brown's excuses
Yeah,
for
that's
why
what
he's
I
not
heard was
spending.
excuse, yeah.
But he
And-
has to meet
I know.
that cap, so he's got to extend him now.
I feel like at this point, because he's such a cheap bastard, that Mike Brown's just gonna not hit the cap floor and then sue the league, demanding that he shouldn't have to spend the cap floor. Because he's fucking Mike Brown. Why wouldn't he do that? He's a fucking asshole.
I have a legitimate question for both of you guys, actually, about speaking of re-signing players who are due up. Atkins obviously has to be re-signed for. I wouldn't be surprised if he got $9 million a year plus. He's that good. He's legitimately
easily.
that good.
Yes, he is.
He should get more.
But Dunlap had an off year last year.
I'm not actually the biggest fan of Carlos Dunlap. I think he's a one-dimensional pass rusher, and there's value in a guy that you can bring in on second and third downs to just do nothing but rush the passer. But he's had a checkered injury history. He doesn't play the run particularly well at all. I mean, with what we saw defensive ends getting in this market, I'm not really willing to pony up an extension for him like that. If I'm the Bengals, I'm saying, okay, test free agency, and if you want to bring your offer back to us, great, and if you don't, we've got two at least, acceptable defensive ends. They might not be good.
Look,
But-
let's not get crazy and call Wallace Gilberry acceptable just yet.
Wallace Gilberry's also their fourth end right now, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm just saying. I mean, they gave him a new deal though. Bear in mind,
They did, and it was...
it wasn't big, but they gave it to him.
Yeah, exactly.
And
But-
they're starting at end. They're starting. They've just franchised the guy. I can't remember his goddamn name.
Fuck.
It's a really generic ass name.
Michael Johnson?
Michael Johnson. Yeah.
Yeah. I get him and Michael Bennett confused. That's why. 'Cause, I wouldn't want to loaf again. So
I figured they were gonna start Gilbert across from him this year, or not this year. Sorry, if Dunlap walked next year, they would start Gilbert across from.
no,
from
there's they also re-upped Gathers, if I'm not mistaken.
Did they?
I'm pretty sure they did.
Okay.
I mean, let me double check on that.
That would make sense because Gathers. I mean, I'm not gonna say he was great, but he was adequate.
Well, he plays for the Bengals.
There you go.
Yeah, they re-signed Gathers. Yeah.
And but I would think that they're going to move Gathers to more of I guess not spell, but you know what I'm talking about, a sub role, and they would start Gilberry.
I mean,
if Dunlap wasn't there,
I mean, Gathers and Dunlap is actually sort of, a nifty defensive end platoon with Gathers on the field for early downs. It makes sense,
Yeah.
but
See, I like Dunlap more than you. If I recall correctly, I mean, it could be again. This is fucking Jordan Gross. I could be wrong, Jordan Black. But I thought Dunlap
Mr.
was
Black.
was Nah. I thought that Dunlap had some injury issues this last year, and that's part of why he didn't perform as well. He wasn't on the field as much as he should have been.
That's 2 years in a row, though.
I mean, no, he had
That's kind of my
a great year in 2011,
And then he got hurt halfway through the year.
But I mean, it's true.
No,
but,
that's part of the reason
but-
that I don't think he's a huge item
but-
for them because of the injuries. But continue.
But there's when you look at guys who have had his injury history isn't egregious. It's checkered. It's questionable. It's not egregious. With considering the amount of cap room the Bengals have right now, when you include an Andre Smith extension and the draft picks, because I'm assuming both are going to happen, because I honestly don't see who's going to outbid the Bengals for Andre Smith unless they just really hate him for some reason. You could give Dunlap at worst, even if he wants a long-term extension, you don't want to give it to him. At worst, you can give him a front-loaded deal. And who? I mean, it doesn't look like they're going to spend on anybody else. I mean, all the players that I would have pegged as Bengals targets are off the board at this point, except for minor guys and maybe Darius Hayward-Bay, because everyone should sign Darius Hayward-Bay. God, why is he still in them? And the only teams are the Colts and the Lions. God, I swear to God, dude, every time a 49ers fan gives me shit about me calling him a top 20 receiver, I want to punch him in the face, because, despite the fact he has only 2 teams have seen him, he hasn't been signed yet, even if he's a top 20 receiver. How is he not? And how are teams not falling over themselves to give him a 5-year deal?
I'm actually glad
That blows my mind.
from that circle jerk.
God,
They're saying shit like, he's only seen 2
That's
teams.
what I was
The rest of the league
thinking
is
of.
retarded.
It wasn't low ignorating you, it was you getting held back from that. Yeah. That's what I was thinking of. But that's the kind of guy I could see the Bengals signing, is a Darius Hayward-Bay. But not a whole lot of other guys. I don't think anyone else who could command nearly as much salary as he should is left on the market that I would peg as a Bengals target. So I would assume they're just going to re-sign. I would assume they're going to extend Johnson. I think they want to. I think they tagged. I don't think they wanted to tag him and let him go next year. I think they wanted to tag him and then extend him. And then if they they give Andre Smith a new deal, and they give Dunlap a front-loaded deal, they would still be in pretty solid cap situation. They could get another. And they re-signed Pac-Man Jones. They re-signed Gathers. They re-signed Gilberry. I mean, they re-signed Brandon Tate. All they really need is a solid, second receiver, and they've got 2 developmental guys who are working on that right now, Marvin Jones and Mohamed Sanu.
I mean, truthfully, I would argue that the quarterback, but
No, at this point, no, you can't make that. I mean, I know you don't like Dalton. I kind of agree with you on some points, and obviously disagree on others, but there's no possible way they would do that at this. I mean, considering that he's been good enough to get them into the playoffs
just
2 years in a
barely.
row.
And that's sort of the problem you run into with Andy Dalton is he good enough to win you a Super Bowl? I don't think he is, but at the same time, you've got a quarterback who's gotten you to the playoffs 2 years in a row that's still got 2 years left on his rookie deal.
The better question is he ever going to be good enough to get you into a Super Bowl? Because
I think he's peaked already.
His first 2 years were he was much better than Eli Manning was. Just I know he's an extreme example because he sucked ass his first 2 years, but he was terrible. He was pretty. And I would argue, even with the Super Bowl on his resume at the time, that he was better than Roethlisberger was his first 2 years. Because Roethlisberger was his early history gets glossed over a lot. And Dalton's been better than granted he has AJ Green and Hines Ward was not AJ Green, and no one's AJ Green because he's one of the best receivers in the NFL. But still, his first 2 years he's been better than a couple of guys who won 2 Super Bowls. And granted, I agree with you, Alex. I don't project that as being him improving at the same rate.
You can't give up.
His ceiling is not, in my humble opinion, is not that high. But I don't think you can give up on him. I don't even think that it's, at worst, I still think he's the guy who can get you the Super Bowl.
He's a starting quarterback in the NFL.
With proper management of the cap and good signings and a couple more decent drafts, maybe even just one more. If they draft this year like they did last year, even if Dalton is just only the best, 5 games of his first and second year, that's Super Bowl right there. because they've got a lot of cheap talent on the roster still, especially if the receivers develop. Which I was a huge fan of Marvin Jones coming out of Cal. I was blown away by the fact that he went as late as he did. The Bengals got really lucky on that one, and Sanu's going to be fantastic in the slot if my predictions hold true. So this, I mean, God, even if Dalton is only his best 5 games each year in the play, they're dangerous. They're very dangerous.
So I had a couple more things, but I want to move on from the AFC North because we've kind of run
Right. We won't
halfway
lay
in
on
the
that.
ground. Yeah.
Whoops.
So let's go into the East for a second. I mean, obviously, we start with the Patriots because there's no reason not to start with the Patriots.
Yeah.
Because they win every offseason.
I mean, I think it's really clear to say at this point that the Patriots have managed to have a typical Patriot offseason without, the same sort of. It's not like years before where the Patriots are collecting all-stars. You know what I mean? That they're getting.
Time out. I'm gonna
Can I
allow
finish?
me. Yes, finish.
They're getting their guys back on below market deals, but not in the same sort of context that you see, like a lot of the other guys they've brought in the past, during these Patriot dynasty teams.
Right.
And so their offseason absolutely needs to be appreciated in that regard. Now go ahead.
I just want to cry. I'll give it to you, Chris, because you're the expert. I want to cry a lot right now because the Sebastian Vollmer deal's bullshit. This is bullshit. Fuck the Patriots,
Yeah.
because this is 4 years, $17 million. This is horseshit. Now you know why I wanted to interrupt you, because this is crap. How the hell did
He's
they
right.
get Sebastian fucking Vollmer to accept half of what Gosder Cherilus got?
Well, the thing
I am
is, like-
legitimately upset about this.
The thing is, like, you were one of the ones who was joking about, he's always injured or something like that. Then he finally plays all his games last year, and he was performing at, an elite right tackle level. And whether he's the best or not, doesn't matter. He was top 5 right tackle. And I thought you'd get top 5 right tackle money, but this is like it's so great because if it works out for him, if he plays at an elite level, then the Patriots win a lot. He gets paid a lot, and if he goes down, then Marcus Cannon steps in, and the Patriots don't have to shell a whole lot of money to a body on the bench.
Yeah, but that nigga looked like he has cancer, though.
Yeah, you get better.
I mean, yeah, and granted, the cap number 17 million is he actually tops out, I believe, at 26 million if he meets like 16 game bonuses.
Something, I think that's it. I know it's capped this year, something like 3 mil. And I
But
really
he
like
has
that
a lot
'cause-
of it's a very incentive heavy contract.
Yeah, hang on, I'm looking at our cap. Okay, I think we have 13 mil in cap, which is good. I like to set a
they're
certain
safe.
amount for rookies.
See, that I thought this is my only criticism of the Patriots offseason right now is I thought they jumped the gun on cutting Brandon Lloyd when you considered how much cap room they still
Well, the
have.
thing is, I'm not like fully saying he's off the team yet because I still say with Josh McDaniels as the offensive coordinator, they're going to
Right.
find a way to bring him back, and they're going to try to find a way to bring in Emmanuel Sanders. It's just they're waiting till the very last second to bring him back.
Right.
Yeah, I feel like, what we heard about the Lloyd issue was really similar to what we heard about the Bernard Pollard issue in Baltimore, where it was more of a team chemistry cut than anything else. Because, like apparently all these stories have come out now that Pollard's been cut, and, I don't want to put too much credence into, the reflective stories in these cases, but apparently people are saying that after the Week 6 game, like going into the bye, like Pollard nearly staged a mutiny in the locker room and like, all
Really?
this stuff.
What?
Yeah. So I don't remember
I
if you
didn't hear
guys
this.
read if you guys read anything about when the there was a meeting that essentially the players declared with the coaches in Baltimore like halfway through the year, where they were essentially just
Right.
airing grievances, and like Harbaugh handled it like a champ because he's John Harbaugh and apparently he does that.
Well,
But-
granted, I can support. I'm gonna let you finish. I support revolting his team piece. Fair enough.
Yeah, and I think it was more a result against Cam Cameron and the hurry up, but yeah, I know. But apparently Bernard Pollard's like the ringleader for this, and apparently there was a lot of locker room friction there, and that led to the cut. And we've heard a lot of similar things, not necessarily to that extreme regard, but we've heard a lot of similar things coming out of New England about Brandon Lloyd before he got cut, where like he's not a good teammate, he doesn't work hard, and this and that. And we know how our fucking Patriots are about having
Patriot way.
Oh my god.
Hey,
Wait,
Just
were we
means
really?
Tom Brady cares
I
about
thought
the
it was
economy.
just. I thought it was just rumored that that Brandon Lloyd. I mean, I never saw any concrete statements or even concrete rumors as concrete as rumors can get about
really
Lloyd being a bad teammate.
unsubstantiated, these rumors that there was team chemistry. I heard one of the things that really weirds me out is I heard it was nowhere near as bad as Randy Moss's team chemistry issues.
Right.
Randy Moss didn't have team chemistry issues. He had issues with the media, specifically Tom Curran.
And self chemistry issues, like getting his brain chemistry in order. But what I see with Lloyd, I mean, I who's the most reliable source that's come out and said that Lloyd had locker room issues? Because I haven't seen anyone who, like, beyond the occasional Twitter account who said that. And he was being for what he had to deal with and I know you're getting paid millions of dollars to play football, but for what he had to deal with as a receiver, which was like getting laid out on every other pass. And actually making half of them into decent receptions, and he never complained about it. I thought he was a pretty good teammate, considering.
I thought he was too. And the thing is, like, the one I heard was Greg Bedard was reporting both of them. He says that one person says that there were team locker room issues. The other person, a source for the Patriots, says that there were no issues whatsoever with Brandon Lloyd. He said he's just going to stop reporting on it.
Yeah, I mean, I know the Boston Globe ran a story on this. I know CSN New England did, but there were enough. It was essentially one of those where there's smoke, there's fire cases, because there were so many little tidbits sneaking out to different people that there had to be something going on, even if it wasn't something that was a big deal, like Nnamdi eating lunch in his car, something that was actually completely trivial. There was something somewhere to this. I don't know how significant it was, but.
I know this is a little off topic, but if it was almost any other player but Nnamdi, I would have, that would be like such a locker room issue. But he's always been the cerebral, quiet, defensive player. He's never been a locker room that was never his thing. And I could see him doing that, being frustrated. To me, that's actually not that big of a locker room issue. Just because of who he is. I mean, it's always been assumed that he's going to be the quiet, very, mental cornerback who's not very. He's not the locker room firebrand or whatever. And I don't think Lloyd was either. Lloyd was just kind of the quiet, do your job. And he had over 900 yards, and half of the passes thrown his way wouldn't have been caught by 90% of receivers.
All right, he's not in the Saints uniform yet. You don't have to white knight him.
I'm still praying on Darius Heyward-Bey. I think
every team should be. Like, I'm still on this.
That bothers the hell out of me because
back to the
we'll get to the FC West later. Sure. The only problem I have with the Patriots right now is you assume. I know you said you assume that Lloyd might be back. He might not be though. And if you don't have Lloyd back, there's just nothing at receiver.
Well, yeah, absolutely. And everyone in the Patriots beat writers, they're all saying that wide receiver right now is really empty. And like, I can quote 2006 as much as I like, but I don't think that Josh McDaniels is going to go out there with Danny Amendola and Donald Jones as our wide receivers. Because worse, look at who's behind them. It's Matt Slater, Kamar Aiken, and Jeremy Ebert. Between them, they have 3 career receptions.
And that's Pro Bowler Matt Slater. How many of those receptions came in the Pro Bowl?
Well, he had a pretty significant
touchdown. He had a touchdown in the Pro Bowl as a receiver, but I digress. Yeah. I think the biggest issue for the Patriots at this point, I mean, you're keeping the continuity on the offensive line. You've still got Tom Brady in a great running game. The defense has gotten better, will continue to get better as a lot of these players like Chandler Jones come into their own as NFL starters.
Yeah, I mean, they have an offseason.
But I think at this point, even if you go out and bring back Lloyd and sign Emmanuel Sanders, and you've got those two and Amendola, you still know this team's going to target receiving help in the draft.
Absolutely.
And with their track record, you have to be worried
I was about to say that. Man.
This team is even worse than the Ravens at finding receivers in the draft, because at least the Ravens can say they found Torrey Smith, which is better than any receiver the Patriots have ever drafted ever.
Yeah, well, I kind of like Deion Lynch, but...
Okay, you kind of like him, exactly.
Man, I'm going to go back in history. I'm going to bring up like Gino Cappelletti, who mostly played kicker, so whatever. But like, I think that there are a lot of
was he white
in this draft. I think it'd be a hard draft to fuck up. Like one of the ones I was going.
Yeah, we say that a lot of years, and then And then things like Taylor Price happened. So
Taylor Price was a really bad fucking Nick Caserio decision. I swear Nick Caserio is behind all of our bad picks.
These oddball fucking Patriot picks happen every year. Like even Jake Paquette last year. Like we were all looking at each other like, what the fuck? Where did this come from?
Wait, were you? Jake Paquette was my favorite favorite pass rusher left on the board at the time, other than maybe one of the guys.
I had Jake Paquette in like the 5th round. I mean,
really?
yeah.
Well,
I didn't get that at all.
I liked him at Arkansas State a lot. I thought he was going to go. I guess I thought he was taken early for where I thought he was going to go, but I thought his talent level deserved him a little higher.
Yeah, I thought 3rd round was about appropriate for him, but like considering I really did like that draft, even the Tavon Wilson. I thought it was a bad pick, but I like the fact that he's on the team.
You didn't even have a picture of that nigga, man.
Yeah, I know. I was like, the thing is, I enjoy doing that, and like, fucking Bill ruins everything.
No, what I see with the Patriots is, I mean, I think the one thing y'all didn't like, Alex, when you were going through the whole, the team for next year, offensive line consistency and all that. The one thing you missed is, I think that as a statistical, if there's a reversion to the statistical mean, the tight ends have to be healthy for most of the year. Yeah, and that's huge. They've got at least one of them has to be healthy.
Yeah, even if it's just one.
Yeah, exactly. And the thing is, like, I'm the one who's been saying that Aaron Hernandez, this is going to be his year. He's going to be the guy who gets 100 catches. It's not the fact that he's, working with Brady in the offseason. It's that he might be the guy who takes over Welker's position as the guy who can go inside, outside, do whatever. I don't know if it's going to be him specifically, but I know that Brady really does like to target him.
Right. Because the only thing the Patriots are missing right now on offense is big play guy, and I'm sure they're gonna re-sign Dante Stallworth to a 5-day contract whenever they need whatever. But they don't even at running back. Vereen, other than a couple plays against the Jets, hasn't shown himself to be the big play threat I thought he'd be out of Cal.
Well, the thing is, a lot of people, especially on the website I write for, Musket Fire, they really think that Vereen is going to come into his own, and it's going to be like fucking Corey Dillon and who else is? I guess Kevin Falk.
That's a horrible comparison.
I know. I
those the Sammy Mortars?
Things.
Oh man.
Hey, I like Sammy Mortars.
He was like 32 though, and from Texas Tech, whatever.
He was probably 32 back then. But like,
he was 34 for the Cowboys.
The thing is, Vereen, he's going to get more carries this time around, and unfortunately, I'm going to make the sign of the cross right now that Jeff Demps is probably not going to be back on the team. But Leon Washington, he might get snaps. He can. Well, I guess he can take over.
He's going to be the Black Woodhead, yeah.
He really is the Black Woodhead. He's about the same size.
And Bolden's fine too as a sub runner behind Ridley. I mean, they're loaded.
That's the thing that they like to do. They like to have 2 power runners, Ridley and Bolden. They like to have 2 speed guys, which would be Washington and Vereen.
They have 4 solid to decent running backs.
Yeah, the thing is,
they don't want to overpay a dude who could be an elite
look
back.
At quarterback, and there's a big play.
They have 4 running backs to start for the Packers, essentially.
Yeah,
but literally,
yeah, I'm okay with that.
I mean, I think that it's absolutely the team in the AFC East, if nothing else, with the least of
Speaking
worries
of the
right
AFC East, you want to talk about something funny? Let's talk about the New York Jets.
Oh, of course.
There's our boys. Oh, remember when everyone was talking about how Mark Sanchez's extension didn't give him any more guaranteed money so they could cut him after 2012 if he was bad?
And that's everyone, you just mean me and Prism. God, I feel like an idiot.
I heard that from every source that I was looking at. I mean, I saw that on PFT. I saw that Walter said that, which he's a dumbass. But everyone that I frequent recently to get news updates, not even decent analysis. But I guess I just kind of assumed that his analysis or his news update would be accurate, and it wasn't. Everyone said that there was no more, guaranteed money, but there was a ton more. And now they've got like 18 quarterbacks on roster. Let me list them out. They've got David Garrard, they've got Greg McElroy, Tim Tebow, Matt Sims, and Mark Sanchez for $14 million.
Did you forget Timothy Tebow? Because he's still on the roster.
Let's talk about running backs or quarterbacks.
And I believe they're trying to sign somebody else right now too. I can't remember. I don't remember the name, but I'm pretty sure they're trying to sign someone else as well.
Weren't they linked to maybe they can go after Kevin Cobb?
Yes, they're linked to Kevin Cobb right now.
Cool.
They could have 6 quarterbacks on roster preseason in training camp.
And that's if they draft no one.
If they
that's of course that's an option.
Still my favorite joke.
Because of course they're still trying to extort more picks out of the Buccaneers for Darrelle Revis, which good for them. They've got to do it. But essentially everything that I've heard at this point,
You're gonna murder his value.
well, it's not even that. It's that the Bucs are already offering a 2014 first, and I would, if I'm the Jets and I'm not going to get 10 this year,
Jump on it.
I'd rather have the 2014 first because it's a better class.
That's
It's got
right.
better quarterback.
Right, but how
even-
much
even
is
if you
Rex
got-
Ryan influencing this decision, though?
I mean, as far as what he's getting this year for Darrelle Revis, either way, it's a gigantic loss. I mean,
I don't
Yeah.
I don't know what Rex's what
How
his
much
influence is at
influence
this
he
point.
has? Yeah, because Idzik's the new general manager. I don't know how much influence Rex has, but if he has any influence at all, that's probably the primary reason that they haven't traded Revis already. Because, I mean, he obviously wants to keep
He
his job.
loves-
He deserves his job because, quite frankly, the things he's done with the defense, considering the absolute shit personnel they've had, especially in the pass rush. I mean, other than Muhammad Wilkerson, he's gotten trash, which is saying something because his position's not in the 3-4 that Ryan runs, which is kind of a one gap two gap hybrid. That he's not supposed to be the guy who gets a ton of sacks, and he's the guy who's their best pass rusher by far. I mean, trying to run fucking the corpse of Brian Thomas before he was injured, and Calvin Pace out there, it's brutal. That should not happen. And yet and the defense last year was way better than it should have been considering the personnel, and that's all on Rex Ryan. And the fact that his job's in danger, I think, considering the absolute ass job that Tannenbaum did as general manager, providing offensive personnel and hiring decent offensive coordinators, that's a disgrace. He should keep his job at least 2 more years.
No, this is just, one more opportunity for him to come to New England as a defensive coordinator.
I mean,
Don't do this.
But you've got Matt Patricia. Why would you want anyone else?
That's the thing about Matt Patricia. I'm still mad about this. Like, you had your fucking... Who's the guy?
His last name's the girl's name.
No. Who's the defensive coordinator for Baltimore?
Dean Pease.
Dean
No,
Pease.
but Patricia's
No,
the girl's name.
still makes me mad because, there's so many of these great guys out there. Xavier Rhodes, he wouldn't fit in our system. He's too good for our system. There's Nnamdi Asomugha, too good for our system. Pisses me off every time we get into the
still
fucking
fun.
red zone and,
Yep.
let's have 10-yard cushion. They're on the goal line.
And there's huge cushions every. Oh, it's.
hey, you never know. There might be a safety back there somewhere. It's not his fault. The safety
Why-
was supposed to be there.
There's a minute 25 in the game. Why don't we put Tavon Wilson and Nate Ebner deep? That sounds like it'll work just fine. The quarterback's 5'9". What's he gonna do?
I can't believe, every time I see Nate Ebner out there, I don't mind if we give out a touchdown because, look at the dude. He's seen 4 plays in his life.
It's just, but they were so bad on that play at Sydney. Oh
So
god.
goofy running around out there with his fucking
And
shoulder
McCourty's
pads.
press was so awful.
I don't think it was a press.
That's
The
why.
more I look at it,
he
it was-
tried
it was-
to he tried to bump him at the line. I mean,
No,
clearly.
he didn't. It wasn't at the line that he
He had
tried to bump
he had
him.
2 full arm extension. Whatever. The
Yeah, it
point
wasn't at
be-
the line though. I don't think that was his coverage. I was
the-
looking at it again.
the-
He played the shallow zone.
The point being that the Patriots have their defensive. They need Rex Ryan, a defensive coordinator, because
Well, yeah, I mean,
Patricia
they would
shit.
change everything around. Look, we're not going to get into Rex Ryan being a better defensive coordinator than Matt Patricia.
right. But when you look at the Jets,
We have a high
considering-
standard on this podcast.
I would
give
give Idzik an A+ grade right now, considering what he's had to work with.
Excellent.
Excellent.
No, but
Excellently done.
Goodson instantly knocks him down to an A- at best.
Okay,
$7 million
yeah.
for Mike Goodson.
I mean, yeah, but just I would have considered the ridiculous deal they got for Antoine Barnes to make up for that, because considering he had 11 sacks last year, I mean they got him for 3 years, $4 million. That
He's
compensates
going to work in that
and then
Rex Ryan
some.
defense. I'm really confident.
As
him
in the
working that
past.
defense.
Even as a situational pass rusher, even at worst as a situational pass rusher, that deal makes up for and then some Mike Goodson. I still give him an A+. And that and Willie Colon, if for some godforsaken reason he can remain healthy, is a massive improvement over autism. And who can, I guess
Again,
you can
he's
move him
gonna
to
be playing
guard,
guard.
maybe? I would rather move autism to guard than Willie Colon at this point.
Autism had a believably great year at right tackle.
He did.
Considering
Great.
what we thought he was going to do.
I mean, for an undrafted rookie, yes.
Oh, well, yeah, that's whatever.
But I mean, when I look at the Jets, the biggest the only, super glaring issue for them, other than no pass rushes, no skill position players whatsoever on offense, because they have nothing.
Yeah.
Well, Santonio's back. I think
he's nothing.
when he's healthy, he's fine.
When he's healthy and engaged and has a real quarterback throwing him the football, he's okay.
Yeah, they got David Garrard.
Assuming he starts, because, this is Rex Ryan land, so who the fuck knows what's going to
Assuming
happen.
he's still good. When's the last time he played?
If Garrard's healthy, this is an opinion an opinion podcast. If Garrard's healthy, I think he's going to be a league average quarterback.
Look, I'm sorry.
Here's an
your
opinion for
opinions
you.
can't be right. All right.
Here's an opinion for you. David Garrard got cut so they could start Luke McCown. Oh.
Yeah,
wait, that's not an opinion at all.
No,
that actually happened.
No, that's not an opinion. He had a crippling injury. He literally couldn't play. He had a back injury. He couldn't play. He got cut because he was literally incapable of throwing the football. Which,
you know what?
That is slightly worse than Luke McCown.
Yeah, I would take David Garrard in a wheelchair over Luke McCown, if we're being honest. But
I was about to say it's slightly worse than Luke McCown.
I don't know about that. But
besides, you're talking about a fucking team that.
How much more can we talk about the Jets? Oh my god!
It's the
I'm gonna kill myself.
It's the goddamn Tebow principle, where you see a guy in practice. Oh, he looks good in practice. Doesn't matter how good he is in a game, and that's why. That's why they said that Sperano said that the reason that Tebow didn't start is because he wasn't good in practice. Tebow isn't good in practice. He doesn't give a fuck. He just fucking YOLOs his way through every game, and he's gonna be good for you in game situations because he's goddamn Tim Tebow.
God, I just want to see him hurl it down the field. Fucking Tim Tebow fun ball.
Some dragons, man.
Oh, that arm cock.
All right, we're gonna go to the number one free agency team now. That was Miami. I can't stop laughing. The Miami Dolphins. They gave $30 million to a white outside receiver.
Well, now I hear from fucking PC that they're all in on Brent Grimes, that they really want to sign him. They get Brent Grimes and a grown-up left tackle, then they might sneak into that number 6 seed for the AFC.
Grown-up right tackle. They're going to be starting.
They don't have any
Martin.
Right
They're
now.
going to start Martin at left tackle.
Yeah, and he's not good. Okay, like
he was solid at right tackle last year.
No, you were absolutely fucking wrong.
No.
Look, I was high on him as a right tackle coming out of the draft. He did not play well there. All right, he did not in his rookie year.
Nah.
Maybe you're giving him a lot of credit for this upcoming offseason, but he didn't play well at right tackle.
I mean, okay, I will grant you that I didn't watch all 16 games. What I saw of him was fine. As a rookie right tackle, yeah, he looked like he was progressing as he should. I mean, he was progressing in a similar manner as, we talked about this earlier, Mitchell Schwartz was in Cleveland. And when you saw pressure, when Long was healthy at least, when you saw pressure, it was usually from his side, but that's because when Long was healthy, the pressure would obviously come from his side. It's the same with Schwartz, where, when there's pressure, obviously it would come from the right side. It's not like Joe Thomas is giving anything up.
Look, I don't even need to go to fucking PFF for his stats. All right, I just know that he was really bad as a right tackle. Then when he switched to left tackle, he wasn't any better.
Well, point being, they're gonna start him at left tackle. I mean, I'm not positive about it, but every indication is that regardless of what the facts are, they're gonna start him at left tackle.
Start him. It's just I know that Will Yeatman's starting anywhere.
Oh, Will Yeatman. They're currently slated to start Will Yeatman and John Jerry on the right side of that line. God.
They're actually not, because they made a signing today. They brought in Lance Louis.
I'm sorry.
I mean,
he's a Hall of Famer. Don't do this.
It's not a bad signing, honestly.
Yes, it is.
I mean,
he's horrible.
He's worse than John Jerry.
I don't know
worse. He's legitimately worse than John Jerry. That's a fact. That is a fact. He's way worse than John. I've never. I mean, when Jerry does something, free Jerry. When Jerry does something bad, at the very least, it's usually like a technical thing. Like his feet aren't set or his technique is poor. Lewis just gets beat physically. You can't fix that. He's just not. He doesn't have the power to hold off bull rushers at defensive tackle. Jerry does have that power. He displayed it in college at Ole Miss, and he's displayed it in the NFL. He's just got huge technique issues. He doesn't practice enough, and that's a fair dispute. But he's clearly better than Lance Louis. Like, it's not even a question. I can't believe you're even pretending it's a question.
I think it is a question.
It's a question.
No, I'm insulted. I'm in the same podcast with people who think that's a question.
No, look, opinions. No, look, your opinions are wrong.
I'll accept debate on the Jonathan Martin. That's fine. But Lance Louis is not better than John
Look,
Jarrett.
I'm just
There's
saying
no
that
way.
neither one of them are any good. I'm not going to say that one's
That's
better
fine,
than the
yeah.
other.
Sure. Yeah, then none of them are good. No, that's absolutely right. And if they start Will Yateman and John
No,
Jerry
if they start
on the
Will
right side,
Yeatman, I'm throwing a fucking party.
that's over. I mean, you have the Patriots gonna eat that alive. Yeah, but when you
Rob
look at
Nikovich sets the record.
when you look at they've got their cap situation is so weird because the players they cut and versus the players they signed. You have to. I think that for this year, really, you have to account the players that they cut at linebacker in addition to their dead money, in addition to the players that they signed, because they've got a lot of dead money at linebacker that they didn't need to have for equal talent.
Yeah, all they really succeeded in doing there was getting younger. I mean, I'm not even sure they're better. I know we talked about this last night, but I'm really, I don't know. Maybe they're better, maybe they're not. It's hard to say.
That's a lateral move at best. Ellerby is overrated, and his contract was absurd.
Ellerby it's just the one we were talking about. He's the best middle linebacker free agent, and we thought that. But now Carlos Dansby is.
Yeah, and Dansby's $4.5 million dead money, and Burnett's $2.5 million. You have to add that to the contract totals for this year if you're talking about them being decent. Them managing them your cap. And that puts an absurd first-year price tag, even with the backloaded contracts, on these players who are at best a lateral move. I mean, I don't know what the Dolphins... Jeff Ireland is... How do he and Buddy Nick Savage... It's like the fucking AFC East is designed to keep stupid shit general managers in power as long as possible. That's the only explanation I have.
It's the Belichick conspiracy.
That's the only explanation I have is the Belichick conspiracy.
Yeah, that's he ruined Kansas City, and he's been doing a work in progress on the rest of our shit division.
And let's not forget. Hold on. Let's not forget that Dimitri Patterson's still under contract with the Miami Dolphins for $4.5 million.
Guys. Dimitri. What? I'm to the point where there's no words. Dimitri Patterson for $1.5 million would be overpaying.
So to sort of sum up the Dolphins from my perspective at this point, if they bring in Brent Grimes and they bring in a right tackle of some sort, if it's Eric Winston or whoever the fuck, then you've got you've got three real offensive linemen on that team with Pouncey, Incognito, and whoever they're playing at right tackle. If it's Winston or someone else. So. Yeah. I mean, if you bring in a corner and a tackle, and you've got fucking plenty of cap room left to do it still. I mean, they've still got at least $15 million in room.
And as positional value whore, I love to say this, it's going to all tilt on how much Brian Tannehill improves.
And let's not forget that, another, very quality left tackle re-entered the market recently. Does anybody know his name?
Jared Gaither?
Yeah.
Oh, there's our boy.
There's our boy.
No, we're going to save him for the West. We're saving him for the West. Come on, because I've got so much to say.
Duo unironically wants him back, though.
Oh, God.
I feel a reunion.
Duo has gone, Facebook Ravens fan tier.
I'm happy to see you again.
Like, non-existent Temple running back Matthew Elliott is incorrect on this. But
So moving on from the Dolphins now to get to the last team in this division, the Bills. The poor Bills. I feel so bad for their 4 fans.
Not the poor Bill. I mean, well, first of all, they're moving to the multiple front is a great move when you consider their personnel. Fantastic move on that. To get a coordinator who, if you believe half of the shit that he says, is capable of running a multiple front system. I mean, the personnel they've got is just screams. I mean, especially Kyle Williams, Marcel Darius, and Mario Williams, just screams multiple front. I mean, that's the kind of personnel you want from the linebackers. Not so much the defensive line / I guess outside linebacker if you're in a 3-4 with Williams. That personnel screams multiple front, and it's going to work a lot better than a pure 4-3 or 3-4 would. But the problem is they've lost all their back 7 talent, almost without exception. They've lost all their... I mean, who do they have in the back 7?
Bird and Gilmore, and that's it.
Yeah, that's it.
But I would hesitate to call Gilmore talent just yet. You gotta give him year 2.
He's the best. He's the best on their team at corner.
And they lost their best special teams player, who was their best nickel corner, in Leotis McKelvin, who's at a very easily retainable price considering the Bills' cap room.
Yeah, I mean, I I look at the Bills, and I mean, you brought in Manny Lawson, which is a good move. Like,
he was so easily retainable that he was actually retained.
See, I
yeah,
disagree with
that's what
that
I thought.
now.
I was gonna say, I thought they re-signed him.
Who? McKelvin?
Yeah.
On
I know,
March
I thought it was
9th,
McKelvin and McGee,
McKelvin
but I
signed the
forgot
Bills
which
on
one.
a 4-year,
I thought it was
$20
someone
million
else who
contract
got
with
him.
7.5 guaranteed.
That's
I knew
right.
it-
He got that stupid
That's
big contract.
That's right. See, I knew he got a 4-year, $14 million deal. I thought it had been with someone else, but yeah, I guess if they re-signed him, then good on them. Yeah, at least they've got somebody with. I mean, even if he's underwhelmed as a top 15 pick, at least they have someone with physical talent at corner who can play nickel, and obviously he's one of the best
return value.
returnmen.
Actually,
One of the
have to
best
like the
returnmen in the
returners.
league. Yeah. And when I see the Bills, I look at Chan Gailey's gone, and that's got to be by far the best thing that's happened to the team in the last 3 years, because he was CJ Spiller ran, and I don't want to quote an exact number on this because I don't have PFF in front of me or at all, but I believe CJ Spiller had about 65 to 70% of his runs with no lead blocker, and about 3/4 of those were out of the shotgun. And what the fuck
I don't-
ever.
I don't
They've
know how
got-
to check that on PFF, so I'll take your word for
and
it.
in exchange, they got a guy who ran the Saints off. I believe he ran the Saints offense when we went on our playoff run to the NFC Championship in 2006. I know he was offensive coordinator for a couple of years here. I believe those were the years. I could be wrong. Don't really care. The point is, when we had Doug Marrone as offensive coordinator, Deuce McAllister was never abused. Even Reggie Bush was never abused like that. They're going to get all the mileage they can out of Fred Jackson, who I still think is a viable second back, and especially CJ Spiller, who is, I don't give a shit what Adrian Peterson lovers say, CJ Spiller is the best running back in the National Football League. It's not even close. When you can, all things considered, when you look at his yards per carry, it's superior. When you look at his versatility, it's superior. His blocking is superior. And the only reason he didn't have a trillion yards is because Chan Gailey is retarded.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at it, I mean, Fred Jackson, as far as I'm concerned, could start on half the teams in the NFL. He's,
Yeah.
I mean,
Oh, I
I know
agree.
I'm higher on Fred Jackson than at least you, Cam, but I really like Fred Jackson. I think he's a starting caliber NFL running back, and the fact that they've got two of them is great for them because they've got absolutely nothing at all at the skill positions on offense beyond that. And they've
Stevie,
also
yeah.
got, I mean, they've got Stevie, who still fucking drops everything.
Yeah,
and he's a nut too.
He did have a stone hands. I mean, that
He's
was
had 2 stone hands years in a row.
was it 2 in a row?
after
I thought he was
Stevie,
better
it's
in
TJ
2011.
Graham.
Oh, it is. I thought he was. No, he's their slot receiver, I believe.
Okay, it's Stevie Johnson, TJ Graham, and what? Brad Smith, Marcus Beasley, Ruvel Martin.
They could bring back Naaman Roosevelt.
Naaman Roosevelt, I was gonna say.
Oh,
Pretty
boy.
sure he's still a free agent.
Yeah, fucking Chris Hogan, Kevin Elliott. Yeah, these
They got 7-Eleven.
They didn't even get
Yeah.
snaps last
Oh
year.
yes,
It's Chris Hogan, motherfucker.
7-Eleven, bitch. No, I mean, when you look at the Bills, obviously they're screaming for a reach on Cordell Patterson in the first round. That's probably going to happen. If not a reach on him,
If
a reach
Gino
on
doesn't fall,
Yeah, if they don't go
yeah.
Gino.
maybe a reach on Derek Ross. I think they're going to start T-Jax. I really do. I'm not kidding. I think they're going to roll with T-Jax.
I think it's a good move.
I think the Patriots are
It's a
going to
good
retain
move.
Jeff Dumps.
No, I think it's
That's
I think it'd be a
blind
good move.
optimism.
His pectoral muscles healed. He's going to be a decent starting quarterback. I mean, when you look at what he did in Seattle, when he literally could not use his entire right pectoral muscle to throw the football. I mean, if you extrapolate that to now and give him a little bit of a decline for adjusting to a new system, I still think he'd be a decent starting quarterback. I think he could jockey for the second best starting quarterback in the AFC East.
It's not saying much, but yes.
But
I
yeah,
think
Yeah, that's
it's,
always like the
yeah.
most fun weekly debate amongst AFC East guys is who's the second best quarterback in the AFC East. It's always Ryan Mallett.
When you look at the bill, it's going to depend on. They've got a lot of promising talent.
They've got a lot of talent, yeah.
No, you're going to love this. They got a lot of promising talent at the coach position. They've got a defensive coordinator who's bringing a lot of exciting ideas, and Doug Marrone. I mean, still think it was a stupid hire considering his track record. But if he brings to the table what he brought to the table in New Orleans, and he does what they think he'll do, this is one of the 8 teams that's contesting for that 8-8 number 6, seed in the playoff.
So one move that I've heard linked to the Bills in the past couple of weeks, sort of sparingly, I don't know if it's going to happen, but I think it would make this team a lot more interesting immediately if it did, is Fred Davis.
Yeah.
Because they've got
Scott Chandler
Chandler.
sucks.
Well, Scott Chandler also tore his ACL in Week 17 and might not be healthy at
And
any
he
point
sucks.
during the next year. And he sucks, but but more importantly, that. But I think that's they need. God, probably 3 weapons in the passing game. They currently have no replacement whatsoever for Levitri. They still need cornerback help. I mean, but there's a lot of talent on this team. It's shallow talent. They don't go deep. They've gone on 2 years in a row where their offensive line's been decimated by injuries.
And Cordy will get healthy this year. I would assume.
Cordy will be healthy, and I mean, if you've got to start Chris Hairston as your 6th offensive lineman, he can play four spots on the line. Chris Hairston's one of the best swing tackles
Solid,
in football. Yeah, and that's good depth to have, but losing Levitri really hurts this team. I mean, fuck, even losing Pat Reinhardt kind of hurts this team. It's because if I'm not mistaken, they might not have another guard, at least that I'm familiar with, on roster. Other
I
than
know Craig Urbich's one. He's
Yeah,
defensive end
Urbich's
right.
solid, yeah.
Urbic's solid, yeah, but I mean,
But I don't know
behind
who
them,
the left is.
they don't have one right now.
I think they could shoot. I know he's a swing guy, but they could shoehorn a swing tackle. They could shoehorn Hairston in there. It wouldn't be
might
terrible.
work. I mean, but that's the thing. It's depends on how they manage their personnel, how well they draft.
Yeah.
If this team reaches for
They're very draft dependent. They're very draft. If they reach for Geno, it's at this point huge mistake. This is the worst draft in history to reach on a quarterback for. I'll give them an exception if they go for Barkley, because I think Barkley's legitimately going to be the best quarterback in the draft. But that's not the point.
I actually really have come to like Geno, but I'm gonna try and save that debate for another time closer to the
Right.
draft.
We ready for the FC South?
Do you guys want to keep going? I mean, we've been going for like an hour on this already.
I think we can do one more division.
So we're just gonna have a podcast of nothing but the AFC West.
No, we're gonna end up having the last podcast is gonna be the NFC East, and then we'll make up for lost time.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think we can go with the AFC South, and then next time we'll do the AFC West, and then maybe we do 2 other NFCs, and then the last one we do the NFC West and the NFC East. I think it'll work.
All right.
All right, so let's go with the AFC South. I'm looking at this is where the most action's been going on, other than the Dolphins being crazy. I'm talking about the most interesting action though, because you got the Colts with and I want to just make a general statement that I don't think I made, or that I kind of glossed over, I guess, in the first free agency podcast, is that when you look this year's free agency bazoopers, it's not been nearly as bad as last year. And I'm transitioning into Eric Walden getting $8 million guaranteed, which is, I mean, if you don't know who he is, because you really shouldn't, he sucks and he doesn't play that. I mean, he was at best a replacement guy. He's a shitty outside linebacker from Green Bay who got $8 million guaranteed for no reason, $14 million over 4 years. And that's the worst deal of this offseason, and it's still not even close. Not even close to the top 5 worst deals last year. This has been a much more moderated free agency overall.
Yeah, I'd like to say
Absolutely
that I hope teams have learned from last year's mistakes, but that's probably just not true. It's just an anomaly, and next year people are going to spend shitloads when they have it again. But
because there's been dumb shit, right?
Yeah,
but not nearly.
But not
Eric Wright bad.
Yeah, I agree. I think a lot of people out there do know who Eric Walden is. If they watched the Green Bay San Francisco game, it was the guy that was on his ass constantly as Colin Kaepernick ran for an NFL record for a quarterback.
Yep.
Because
that's
he
his
was
shining moment.
He was the spy. He was the guy that they decided was going to spy Colin Kaepernick that whole game, and got destroyed, and somehow gets rewarded for it with this deal when there were, I mean, he got, I know, obviously, yearly it's not as much, but he got more money on this deal than Cliff Averill got. Just let that sink. Cliff Averill was on the market. Like, this was not a situation where,
this is a day one signing.
Yeah, this was not some panic signing when Eric Walden was the last guy available and there was some huge bidding. Nope, it was just...
This was a loaf deal.
Yeah.
This was a why is my team not more active in day one? Please loaf me some more free agents. This is a loaf.
It's just I don't understand it. I'm not like I said in the previous podcast, I'm not crazy really about any of their offseason moves. This is a little bit better team.
Donald Thomas,
yeah,
bro.
that's right.
I'm
I actually
crazy
said
about
that.
that.
I love that one.
That was a good move, but I don't see this as a much better team. I mean,
Not matched. This is underrated. Not matching Donnie Avery, I thought was a great move for them because he's basically LaRon Robinson, and he didn't get nearly as much because the Jaguars didn't try to sign him, but he got like $4 million a year over 3 years or something like that.
it was stupid. Yeah.
And the fact that they didn't try to match that, I thought was an underrated good move for them.
No, speaking of wide receivers, though, you guys saw the beginning of Beauty and the Beast, right?
What?
Where the prince turns away the ugly chick, and then she turns him into the Beast. Jim Irsay turned away Darius Hayward Bay,
Oh,
and they're going to curse him with a 4-12 season.
in fairness, he just didn't sign a deal yet. I'm still holding out hope that it's because the Saints deal is so good
Well,
that
then he
didn't
visited
want
the
to.
Lions. He got turned away twice. There's another 4-12 season. It's
Well-
the curse of DHB.
Well,
Because it's
to be
turned
fair,
away.
to be fair, he's apparently sitting on an offer from both teams at this point.
Yeah,
Oh,
So,
that's
damn! I was
the
holding out
deal.
hope he would visit
But-
the Patriots.
but see, here's the thing: if he goes to the Lions, he's going to be under the curse of Chris Durham, where all the receivers on the depth chart in front of Chris Durham have to get hurt. So Chris Durham is starting by week 17. It'll be Megatron and Chris Durham week 17 next year, just like it will be
Don't-
every year now
Don't
and forever.
forget the most retarded nickname of all time, M0,
What?
Mike Thomas. That's his nickname. Jags fans nicknamed him M0.
I thought he was M80.
Is it M80?
It's
I
M80
thought it was
because he was number 80.
I swear to God, I saw Loaf call him M0 one time.
Well, I
and that
mean-
stuck with me.
You
and that
read
stuck
a low
with me.
post, so
I did. That's my fault. Fucking M80 is going to be their starting out. They're going to play him outside and play Chris
They're
Durham in the
not.
slot and play Chris Durham in the slot week 17. Guarantee it. You can change my account name to Arafat Senpai Agu if I'm wrong.
Bro, I think that's taken.
It won't be by then.
But in all seriousness, as far as hey, I said the word right for once.
There you
But
go.
anyway, as far as the Colts go, I don't see them as much better. I mean, if you look at their expected win-loss from last year, they should have been a 6-10 team last year and got, hot at the right times, lucky at the right times. Sort of everything broke their way minus the whole cancer thing.
But they had a lot of draft picks too.
They did. They had a lot of draft picks, and a lot of those guys came in and helped. But what this team talent-wise should have been was a 5-11, 6-10 team. I think all these signings, they're win-wise probably one win better on pure talent. But I think the regression of the mean is going to have this team in that 7-9, 8-8 discussion. I don't see this team, unless they knock it out of the park in the draft, which is possible. I mean, they had a fantastic draft last year. Even if
Yeah,
you
they did.
ignore Andrew Luck entirely, you can take Andrew Luck out of that class. They still had a top 10 class.
Yeah, I don't know what
Still a top
RGW was all
3
about.
class without Andrew Luck, as far as I'm concerned. It was that good. I mean, even the worst player in the class was a guy who's probably going to come in. And the only reason he was the worst is because he was suffering from a torn ACL. He'll probably come in and start at nose tackle immediately. That's
Oh, you mean Josh Brent?
Josh Chapman. Hey, just fuck yourself. I don't agree with you about the Colts because, I mean, when you look at, I know I'm comparing, incompatible situations, but when you look at Peyton Manning's first year with a team that drafted him number 1 overall versus Andrew Luck's year with, I know he was overrated for the Offensive Rookie of the Year discussion, but he still did a lot better than Manning did his first year.
No,
And
I think
he's
the
gonna
offense
be
is gonna be
different
good.
year.
and I think he's going to be a lot better next year. I think they're the easy favorite for the number 5 wild card. Never mind, they could contest for the division easily.
I think offensively they are going to get better, but I still look at the fact that they're starting Vontae Davis and Greg Toller at corner.
Yeah.
I mean,
furthermore,
Toll.
don't
You're
compare Peyton
relying-
Manning 14 years ago to Andrew Luck now. The game has changed.
I mean, you're starting
Talking about the
pass
impact,
rushers. Your starting pass rushers on this team are Robert Mathis and Eric
Eric
Walden.
Ugh.
You've got no defensive line still. Your only safety worth a
Nevis was
shit
good.
is your only safety worth a shit is LaRon Landry, and God knows how long he's going to stay healthy for. You've got nothing to replace him. I mean, you even
I
lost
mean-
Boxerkowski, so I just
Hey, Nevis was good. Well, I mean, when he was
He
when
was
got
Dude,
acceptable.
Nevis played like, what, 300 snaps? I don't even have PFF up. I'm just
he'll
guessing.
yeah, but he'll probably start next year and he'll be fine. And I mean, I'm not trying to underplay how depleted they are on defense, but when you look at the defense, I mean, I'm assuming that Andrew Luck makes a typical progression for a guy who looked as fundamentally sound. Other than, he had a ton of interceptions, yeah, but as a guy who was, he was intelligent and as fundamentally sound as he is. When I'm looking at his progression, even with a bad defense, they're still gonna. I still think they're a favorite to make the playoffs because I mean, obviously, A, offense is more important, but B, you see teams like this all the time with worse offenses and worse defenses make the playoffs. It happens all the time.
So I think that in the AFC they're absolutely in the discussion.
They
But
have to be.
posing this to you personally before we move on to another team,
Right.
do you think this is a playoff team in the NFC? Do you think this is a 500 team in the NFC?
In the
No,
NFC,
to
they
both.
they'd be struggling a lot more, but I don't think that they'd be necessarily out of it. I think that
Because, I mean,
they would
I
be
look at the
struggling
team
with the
in the
6th seed. They'd be
I
struggling
look
with the
at-
6th seed.
I look at this team, I see the Lions, like almost to a T. And obviously the Lions should have been better last year. And
Yeah.
the Colts, I think, whether what you think about them, whatever that might be, they probably weren't nearly as good as their record showed. I mean, even if you think they
Sure.
were a
No,
9 and 17
absolutely.
talent,
Absolutely.
I mean, with the regression of the mean of those two teams, I don't see them as that fundamentally different. They're both, explosive offensive teams with shit defenses with injury problems. And look at what happened to the Lions last year. That could easily be the Indianapolis Colts. Through
could
no
be.
fault of Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck could get better
be.
and this team could still get worse.
No, you're absolutely right. And I mean, again, regression to the mean, they have to get worse. But I still see them. I mean, if I'm making the retarded conference predictions right now, which no one should ever do before the draft, never mind before preseason, I would still put them, pencil them in as the number 6 seed in the AFC easily. I mean, I wouldn't even question myself on that one.
I'm putting them in at number 5 right now.
I think it's hard not to. I mean, I think at this point, obviously I'm jumping the gun on this one a bit, but I think it's hard at this point to change the 6 playoff teams from last year with what's happened so far. I mean,
No way. No, the Bengals could easily slip because of,
Could
Andy
they? Yes.
Danger Dalton.
they could slip. I'm not saying they couldn't slip. I mean, the Colts could obviously slip as well, but I mean, who's going to challenge them? The Dolphins, the Chiefs?
Steelers still have
Steelers?
Roethlisberger.
Yeah,
With Roethlisberger, you can't count him.
I mean, Dolphins, Chiefs, Steelers, Bills. Beyond that, there's no challenge whatsoever. I mean, you take the second best team in every division, you throw them into this discussion. You're just scratching your head, going, "God, really, that team?"
Like you're counting
I
on
mean,
a lot
fuck,
of
even the Browns, like the AFC is so bad, the Browns are legitimately in contention.
No, I
in the
believe in
AFC.
the Browns.
If
Browns are the
Locker
best team in the
fixes his
NFL.
footwork, the Titans are there. Even with their relatively bad offseason, which we're going to transition to right now because it's Cito.
Okay.
If Locker can, I mean, I know he's not going to, and I'm horribly optimistic because I loved him coming out of Washington, and I thought it was a great pick by the Titans. If he can somehow manage to finally fix his pocket footwork, this is actually a playoff team. Even with the Sean Green signing, even with paying Andrew Levitri $900 trillion, there's
Even with Stonehands Walker,
even with Stonehands Walker, who is probably just going to be more of a blocker, which I
even
don't know
with
why.
probably cutting Nate Washington and replacing him with Kevin Walter.
He's so.
That's still a thing.
He's so white. God.
That's still
Even-
a thing. They're
even-
trying to get rid of Nate Washington.
Yeah, because his cap number's way too
Either
high.
that or
but,
50-year-old Brandon Stokely.
but yeah, we're so right.
Even
with that, there's
Even with-
if Locker fixes his pocket footwork, they would beat out the Colts in my opinion. for
Even with
playoff spot.
the fearsome 3 safety sets that they love to use with Michael Griffin,
Still
Bernard
doing this
Pollard.
shit?
Yeah,
God.
Michael Griffin, Bernard Pollard, and George Wilson as their 3 safety set. So they've got 2 box safeties on
my
Michael
God.
Griffin. Yeah,
Are you really going to do that?
they're really going to do it. It's
That's-
what they run defensively. It's what they tried to shoehorn Jordan Babineau into.
It's like
If
I'm
they
literally
did it
playing.
with him-
It's like I'm literally playing NFL head coach 09
Wait,
with a 3-3-5
guys,
defense.
I got one. Guys, how about if Jared Cook wants to play football?
Well, you see, Jared Cook clearly
He's a
is
wide
very
receiver.
He doesn't-
low,
he
he's
doesn't
a
care
very
about
low
football.
effort player. He doesn't
Shut
care
up for
at
my
all.
clarinet solo. He can play wide receiver. Nah.
Fucking Jared Cook and Walt.
I don't understand how you can call Jared Cook lazy when he was on the field for like 40% of their snaps, because the retarded ass fuck Titans coaching staff only put him in on 3rd down and occasionally second
Look,
if they
if
were
he
feeling
cared-
generous.
Look, if he cared about football, he would have just walked onto the field. a
With
la
Titus Young
Young.
to every play.
How can anyone
Get out
hate
of here,
Titus Young?
Dominic.
No
Get out
one
of here,
cared.
Dominic Raiola. This is my game.
No one cared more than Titus Young. He wanted his team to win. He wanted them to get the ball to their best receiver.
And when we talked about the Titans in the preseason, before free agency started, what we talked about was they had positions where they had so many positions where they had a lot of number 2 guys, and that was kind of the gist of their situations. There's number 2 at every position pretty much, except for like running back, and then maybe a couple others. And they've added the one position we said that they should add a guy more than anywhere with, additionally with Hutchinson retiring, was guard. And like it or not, whether they overpaid him or not, Levitre's still going to be good at guard, even with paying him $42 million, which is ridiculous. He's still a massive improvement over Hutchinson. I mean, even in the running game, which is not his forte, he's still a massive improvement. Not even close.
I agree. Like I said, it's hard to see this smattering of pass blocking linemen and think they're going to get any push in the running game this year. Because, Chris Johnson, another Walt favorite, Chris Johnson, is going to have to dance around the backfield all day. Still, even if they're better, I mean...
No, they had a bad first 5 games, but Roos and Stewart in particular, there was a weird issue with synchronization on that offensive line the first,
It took them a while
5
to get
games.
going.
But once they got going, their run blocking was fine.
Wasn't
And-
it after they plugged in Deuce Latui or something?
Something like that.
That's
Something
what they needed for
stupid
that
like
line
that.
to be good.
That defies all sort of logic, so we don't even need to.
But it
comment on
happened.
that
But the
one.
point, I mean, and I know, Sean Green, ha ha ha. But I still remember, way back in the day, back in the 2009 playoffs, when he was a spellback, Sean Green was
Back
really
when Jordan
good.
Gross got injured.
Let's just do this. Back when they were starting Thomas Jones, the Jets were, and they brought in Sean Green as a spellback in the playoffs.
And it worked,
He
yeah.
was good, and if I see him as a spellback for Chris Johnson, I'm not going to assume that he's going to be nearly that good, but I think he's way better than Javon Ringer as a spellback, because I liked Ringer coming out of Michigan State, but he hasn't lived up to the potential. I like Sean Green as a change of pace for Chris Johnson a lot. I think it's going to be, especially if he can resume remotely close to that 2009 playoffs form, or 10 or what, I don't even, it was 2009. Then I think that's going to be a massive improvement in the running game, especially considering that it's looking like they're going to be a very run-heavy team.
Yeah, and it's sort of weird when you realize how run-heavy they're looking to be when you've got a guy with all the arm cock that Jake Locker's got in those 3 receiver sets. If you manage to not fuck up having Nate Washington on your team, which it's the Titans, so I'm not counting anything out at this point. But
Washington had a good year. Even with his cap number, I'd be really surprised if they cut him, because he was still there. I'm not gonna say he was their best receiver. Even at 31, he's still their most consistent receiver. I mean, easily most consistent receiver.
they really want to trade him. They're trying hard.
They
I don't know why.
Cool.
They really
I
should
like
retain
Nate
him.
Washington.
What are they going to do with the rest of that cap? Unless they're bringing in Darius Hayward-Bay, there's no reason to cut him, because, I mean, you're looking at starting Kenny Britt across from
Kendall
Wright, which sounds good in theory.
If
but,
they're both
but
healthy,
we
yeah.
know what Kenny Britt's deal is, and then the backup is. I like Damian Williams. I don't think he's that guy you want starting.
Yeah, same
ever.
thing with Lavelle Hawkins. Like they're just,
Right.
Yeah, those
they're okay complementary pieces. They can be early Doucette, but not much more.
Who was cut for dropping 23% of
Yeah, exactly. But
you don't want him to be anywhere near a starting position. Maybe on 5 wide sets when your first 5 are winded or whatever. But when you look at the Titans, I see a team that, I mean, again, they got a ton of number 2 guys, either in terms of wasted potential, like with Kenny Britt, or just in terms of pure talent, like Nate Washington. It's just all over the field, including on defense. And if they can get Jake Locker to fix his footwork, they're still going to be a playoff team.
I'm not willing to call Kenny Britt wasted potential at this point, because he was coming back from a serious knee injury last year, and I mean he had his most recent knee surgery like during the preseason, so it's kind of, I'm somewhat willing to give Kenny Britt a pass for last year, especially with the way he was being used. Him and Jared Cook both must have did I don't know what they did to that offensive coordinator, but it must have been just fucking awful. They must have just pooped in his locker every day for a month. I don't understand. But
It's
anyway,
a great mental image, but it was really bad.
it was awful. And I feel like just I mean, even if you look at the end of, the year last year when Kenny Britt was, actually playing really, really well. I know this because of, owning him in fantasy and watching him go off the end of the year and being like, I'm going to win. Kenny Britt's finally doing it. And then, oops. But anyway.
Bazingo.
Yeah, I got bazoopered hard. But I feel like between the AFC South podcast and the free agency one, we've covered a lot of things about the Titans. But there's one player that I wanted to talk about because my man boner is just growing and growing for Darius Raynaud at this point.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
If he starts seeing more offensive snaps, even if it's, in like a Percy Harvin scatbag type role, like, this could be an extremely, extremely explosive weapon for them.
He's got Cordell Patterson field vision. He absolutely has that crazy field. No, I agree with you. I feel like the Titans don't deserve this much time, and I want to briefly skim over the last two the AFC South teams because I don't think they deserve much time either, quite frankly. And that's the Jaguars. Yeah, I know. And the Texans. And the Jaguars, I mean, really, they haven't done much of anything, which is fine as far as I'm concerned.
I think it's
they're still dealing with a ton of dead money from Laron Robinson, and they had that's a real thing.
And Clint Session, Dewan Landry, and
no dead money from Aaron Ross, but he was still on roster, and that's
any dead money from Aaron Campman?
Oh, yep, I'm pretty sure there is.
Oh my God, really?
I'm not positive. I could look at it. I don't feel like it, but I'm pretty sure there is.
Aaron Campman, $2.5 million.
There's
Mike Thomas,
boy.
3.6. Yeah.
Jesus, really?
Yeah.
Mike Thomas, 3.5.
Yeah, they traded him for the right to pay him $3.6 million this year.
Yeah.
At least they got something back, though.
All right, I can summarize this very briefly. The Jags have done the absolute right move. Gus Bradley is very smart in not acquiring much of anything because they've got to bleed this guaranteed crap out, and then if they're going to go in free agency hard, they're going to go next year.
Yeah, I mean, there are a couple fits that I see that I like for this team. I mean, if they bring in Alan Branch, which has been rumored for most of the offseason, that's a good move for them.
Darius Hayward-Bay, because every team needs him.
Well, yes, of course. Every team does need DHB. But I do have one question, now that I'm looking at it, because I'm really not sure what the implications of this are. And if, you guys want to look into it between now and the next podcast or not, 'cause it's food for thought, then that goes for, all four of you listening to this, too. Does the 2012 cap rollover count towards the cap floor for this year?
Yes.
Okay.
I'm actually taking a sports law class right now. Yes. The answer is yes.
Good thing we have experts on this.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, Prism, if you say so.
Yeah, cap rollover. It absolutely counts for the cap floor. That was part of the point of it. Was specifically because it counts towards the cap floor. Yeah. So the Jags they're really jettisoning some serious cap room, and this is gonna be a wasted. It's going to be a wasted year, especially with Blaine Gabbert at quarterback. And you just have. I don't like to advocate for wasted years. I hate the concept in general. 99% of the time, it's stupid, and you should have at least tried. This is a wasted year for the Jags, unless they just blow the draft out of the water.
Even if they do that, I don't think there's anything they can do this year.
Yeah, they just don't. They should have traded Maurice Jones-Drew already. That should have been a thing. They've really got to reload for the future.
I don't even think there's a market for Maurice Jones-Drew. I think you're almost better off, letting him.
Yeah, I don't think anyone cares about him anymore.
You let him play out the year. If he's good, then awesome.
Compensatory pick.
Yeah, exactly.
In
You're gonna get a 4th round compensatory pick for him, and that's about what he'd draw if you're extremely, extremely lucky for 1 year of MJD on the open market.
I can see a team giving a 2 for him because the NFL's stupid. Absolutely.
Not for a running back.
But
teams do not trade for running backs. They've learned that, if nothing else. Thanks, Clinton Portis.
And see, I have nothing more to say about the Jags. If that's all right with y'all, I want to move to the Texans, which I don't have much to say about either. But we're just kind of closing this out because we've been going for a while. The Texans, the only major move they really made is, overpaying for Ed Reed. But when you look at their secondary, I know I talk shit about Ed Reed at the start of the podcast, comparing him to Michael Huff. But compared to Glover Quinn, he's a massive improvement because Glover Quinn sucks and Lions fans should be sad.
Shut the fuck up. You don't know shit about Muppets.
Ed Reed's, just in terms of, I'm not even going to pretend that he can tackle because we all know he can't. But in terms of coverage, he's a massive improvement over Glover batting balls into Mike Thomas's hands, Quinn.
So what I'm curious about with this signing is how he's going to fit into a Wade Phillips defense that doesn't usually, have any semblance of a center fielder.
I think it's a great fit when you look at.
I mean,
Yeah.
I think it's a great fit if he's managed properly. But if he's playing a more traditional free safety role, do you have to worry about him becoming sort of disengaged? I'm not trying to say that as a negative about Ed Reed, but he's only played one way his entire career. Like
I'm just saying.
do
Remember, Ken Hamlin had a Pro Bowl year as a center fielder.
I know.
For Wade Phillips.
Really?
Yeah.
Ken Hamlin was a Pro Bowler in 2007 as a center fielder, free safety for the Dallas Cowboys. If Ken Hamlin
Was that Wade Phillips or was that still the Parcells?
that
years?
was Phillips' first year.
Okay.
And in return, if he can do fucking Ken Hamlin, I'm pretty sure Ed Reed, I'm pretty sure Daddy Dog can do it too.
I'm curious to see how their defense is going to adjust because it's an adjustment from last year is really what it boils down to for me.
Yeah.
I worry about this team's pass rush a bit. I mean, you're going to need second year development from Merciless. You're going to need Brooks Reed to do something. I mean, obviously you've got the two great pass rushing defensive ends, but you need some semblance of anything
Right.
outside linebacker, and you need to stay healthy if you're the Texans, because that's other than the right side of the line and finding some other receiver to pair with Andre Johnson. If
Who's not
three.
white? God.
Yeah, please no Ryan Swope. I mean, it would be hilarious if you drafted
be
Ryan
really
Swope.
funny.
Oh, that reminds me. Apparently,
First round.
the Patriots were at his pro day or whatever. The scouts were,
They would
and
be.
they were on apparently a mission from God to see if he's worthy of joining the Patriots or something
He's
like that.
fast for a white little boy.
He's
4'3",
white. Oh God, Nick Casario is going to be all over him. I'm
Why
gonna kill
why
myself.
else would we be talking about him in a discussion about white wide receivers?
I mean,
He's white.
Wait, did you have to ask if Ryan Swope was white? I mean, god damn.
Dude, I'm the one. Whenever you guys talk about the draft, I'm always bringing up Landry Jones because I don't know shit about the draft.
Sha la 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 la, dude. Shit.
When you look at the Texans, they haven't made a lot of moves. They didn't really need to make a lot of moves. Their primary focus has to be on the draft because you got to draft a guy opposite Andre Johnson, and you got to draft at least one serious playmaker on the defensive side of the ball. But they're still a legitimate threat other than that. And once you get those two pieces in, they're still a threat to the Super Bowl.
You need an offensive lineman on the right side if nobody takes a second year step forward, because that side of the line.
Eric Winston's a free agent. That should be easy. That should be so easy. Come on.
But look who we're dealing with here. The team that cut Eric Winston in the first place when they didn't need to.
No.
Remind me again, who was it that they paid with the money that they saved from cutting Eric Winston?
Oh,
was
it was
that?
someone fun, wasn't it?
I don't know.
It was someone fun, wasn't it? I'm pretty sure it was someone fun.
sure it was absolutely fucking no one.
I thought it was someone fun. I really thought they had given somebody like a little bit too much guaranteed money. That was they kept Kevin Walter. That's right. He was
Well, yeah.
He was
That's right,
$4.5 million in cap savings, and they cut Eric Winston instead. Oh, that's beautiful.
Yeah, they did make a really good signing today. They brought in Greg Jones from the Jaguars,
That's not-
which is
Oh, yeah, I like
fantastic
As a
movement.
reserve linebacker, maybe. Yeah.
We're talking about the fullback.
Yeah.
though.
God
the
damn it,
fullback. I
Cam.
thought we were talking about the. There is a Greg
Shut
Jones
up.
linebacker.
Just shut up.
Hey,
Thanks,
loaf yourself. All right. If we're done with the Texans,
Yeah.
we need to sign off. We good?
Yeah, I don't really have
All
much to add on that one.
Well,
Shots.
This is Cam, Chris, and Alex talking football. We're gonna get to the NFC next time, and then maybe if you're lucky, the FC West as well.
Yeah.
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 Yeah.